There have been a lot, and I mean a lot, of superhero animated shows over the years. However, I don't think any character has had as strong of a track record as Batman. Yes, Spider-Man has had some great adaptations, such as the 90s animated series and The Spectacular Spider-Man, as have the X-Men with their 90s series and Evolution, and of course they're currently tearing up the screen with their series X-Men 97, which I plan to start watching soon. But even with those shows, I feel like Batman has just been endowed with more consistently strong shows, the pinnacle of which would be the truly excellent Batman the Animated Series, a show that I watched for the first time recently. I'll link the video I made on that show at the end of this one, but suffice to say it was a fantastic show that has stood the test of time, as has the rest of Batman's animated filmography. However, I think the sheer brilliance of some of Batman's shows leads to others being completely overshadowed, and no show in Batman's repertoire feels more overshadowed to me than the new Batman Adventures. I see so many people talk about Batman the Animated Series, or Batman Beyond, or Justice League, or The Batman. I rarely ever see people talk about the new Batman Adventures, which is a crying shame because in my opinion, it's just as good as Batman the Animated Series.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
She tries so hard.
We'll book him on the robberies and B&E, right? Anything else?
Yeah. Murder.
Now, I'm not sure how people will respond to me saying that I think the new Batman Adventures is on a par with Batman the Animated Series. I do think some people will agree, and I'm pretty sure some people will just view the new Batman Adventures as part of Batman the Animated Series. I mean, both shows have the exact same opening, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to view the two as separate entities. Honestly, there are some good reasons as to why this show isn't spoken about as often as other superhero animated shows, outside of the fact that it is basically just Batman the Animated Series again. First is the fact that it's quite short. Look at most animated superhero shows and you'll find quite large episode counts. The new Batman Adventures has a much more modest episode count of 24 by comparison. This means the show had less time to leave its mark on viewers compared to other shows. Another reason is the character designs. On the odd occasion when the new Batman Adventures is brought up in discussion, it's usually to discuss the redesigned characters from Batman the Animated Series, as this is a continuation of that show. Generally, people don't really like the new character designs in the new Batman Adventures, and vastly prefer the older designs from Batman the Animated Series. Going into this show, I was actually curious as to why they redesigned the characters for this show, given that a lot of the old character designs were really good. While apparently the new art style and character designs were introduced so that this show would match the art style and character designs of Superman the Animated Series, which was airing at the same time. On the whole, I would agree with the sentiment that the art style and character designs are weaker in this show than Batman the Animated Series, though that's not true for all the characters. I think villains like Scarecrow and the Penguin have received massive upgrades in the look department, although not everyone will agree with me on the Penguin. And I like that Killer Croc is actually green in this series. Best of all is Batgirl, who's received an amazing redesign, which was very important given her considerably larger role in this series. However, I think most characters look worse in this series than they did originally. Bane looks like a gimp, Catwoman looks like she has anemia, the Mad Hatter no longer looks human, Riddler looks like a bad cosplayer, Mr. Freeze looks like he's about to create the human race or the xenomorphs, or whatever the engineers did in Prometheus. And then by far the worst redesign is the Joker. This is easily my least favourite design that I've seen for the Joker. Where's his lipstick? He needs more colour. Why is his eyes black? I understand the reasoning behind the redesign, but it feels like that for a lot of the characters they just simplified the designs and made them less detailed. Like companies nowadays simplifying their logos to just a coloured circle. I know that's where the Microsoft Edge logo is going. It's a shame that the redesigns are what this show is best known for, because in terms of narrative and characters, there has been no downgrade between Batman the Animated Series and the new Batman Adventures. Same with the animation too, and the voice acting has only gotten better. You can tell that Kevin Conroy is far more comfortable in the role of Batman in this series. I said in my Batman the Animated Series video that a couple of his lines didn't quite hit right with me, despite his voice acting in that series being excellent. In the new Batman Adventures, there's none of that. By this point, Batman had become a well-worn glove for Kevin Conroy. Outside of the character redesign, if the new Batman Adventures was basically just more Batman the Animated Series, then why wasn't it called that? Well, it's to do with the fact that the Bat family had a larger presence here than before. especially Batgirl, who is in almost every episode. I'm not really a big Batgirl fan, but I think this show made good use of her here. She felt like a good sidekick to Batman, and honestly I think this version of Batgirl gelled with Batman a lot more than this universe's version of the Robins. Speaking of which, I did like Tim Drake in this show. Truthfully, Tim Drake has always been my least favourite Robin. Dick Grayson is my favourite. He's the OG and he just always comes across as a likeable older brother to all those around him. It's no surprise that he's such a hit with the ladies in and outside of the comics. Jason Todd kinda sucked as Robin, but that's fine because no one really thinks about him as Robin. His transition into Red Hood is one of the most iconic storylines in comic media, and he's just a generally well written and easily to root for character. And then there's Damian, who despite appearing last feels the most distinct out of all the Robins, with his brash and confrontational personality. Compared to them, Tim Drake sort of just falls into the background, and I could be wrong here, but it feels like Tim Drake has only gotten less and less popular with time. So it's interesting to watch this show at a time when I believe his popularity was at its highest. This show did a really good job of distinguishing Tim from Dick. Tim actually felt like a kid in this show and lacked the finesse of both Batman and Dick Grayson. I actually enjoyed watching a character struggle and overcome their limitations, as opposed to Batman, who often had the situation under control. Plus his Robin suit here is easily my favourite. It's a lot more striking than the one Dick Grayson wore in Batman the Animated Series. Sadly though, this show never really changed my opinion on Tim Drake. I still view him as my least favourite Robin, and that's mainly because he appears quite sporadically throughout the show. Had this show been longer and Tim Drake shown up more, then maybe I would feel differently. Luckily, I got to see Nightwing in the show, which made me very happy. To see Lauren Lester's version of Dick Grayson as Nightwing was a real treat, and it was fun seeing Nightwing in his earlier days when he was still a bit more brooding and still a little trapped in Batman's shadow. Dick Grayson appears in this show less than Tim Drake does, yet he had more of an impact on me as episodes where he appeared focused a lot more on him. I liked seeing the progression in his character and how his relationship with both Batman and Batgirl has changed since Batman the Animated Series. I'm happy to report that Dick Grayson continued to be a fantastic character in this series. It's not just the characters that were great in this series, but the storylines too. Just like Batman the Animated Series, they're not all winners, but it's great how many are, such as both the Scarecrow episodes and the Clayface one. I also liked, most likely due to its connection to Superman the Animated Series, how this show branched out into more parts of the DC universe than its predecessor did. Batman the Animated Series was a lot more confined to Gotham and the world of Batman. I like that this show spread its wings a little further and connected us to Metropolis with Supergirl's episode and Demons with the episode that showed us Etrigan. Honestly, I wish the show delved more into that stuff to further distinguish itself from Batman the Animated Series. This show also continued to show why Harley Quinn is an actually really good character. I've said it before, but I'm not really a big fan of Harley Quinn. In recent years she's become really oversaturated and I just find her annoying personally. However, Batman the Animated Series really showcased why she was so popular, and I've come to the conclusion that I don't hate Harley Quinn. I just don't think I really like the anti-hero version of her. I much prefer this version of Harley, who's trapped right beneath the Joker's thumb. She's just a more interesting character in my eyes, and the new Batman Adventures really cemented that for me. I also like that we get a lot more of a friendship with Poison Ivy in this show, considering their modern romance, and I especially like the finale to this show. One of my issues with Batman the Animated Series was its lack of an ending, or at the very least, a good final episode. In comparison, the new Batman Adventures ends on one of its best. In the final episode, we get to see how Harley Quinn became so infatuated with the Joker and her origins. By now, you likely know the origins of Harley Quinn, yet it's no less interesting seeing it play out here. It's a satisfying capper to not just the new Batman Adventures, but Batman the Animated Series too, if you choose to view it as such. Although Batman Beyond is a continuation from this show, so it's not like the story is completely over yet. All in all, the new Batman Adventures is a worthy successor to Batman the Animated Series. In fact, given a few more episodes, and we might have seen people nowadays argue over which was the better series. However, for me, this is one of the best animated superhero shows that I've ever seen. It has a very clear amount of polish in its animation, in its story and dialogue, and in its characters, both the heroes and villains. And whilst I wasn't too fond of the character redesigns in this show, they never detracted from everything that was good about this show, and after a certain point, you do get used to them. The new Batman Adventures is incredible, and in my opinion, deserving of way more recognition than it has ever received. But anyway, these were just my thoughts. What did you think of the new Batman Adventures? How does it compare to Batman the Animated Series and all the other superhero shows for you? What's your favourite Batman show? And what did you think of the character redesigns here? Did you love them, did you hate them, or did you just not really care? let me know down in the comments below. And as you work your way down there, be sure to hit the like button. It really boosts this video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you're feeling really generous, then do consider subscribing too. I'm hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It's looking really doable and I would really appreciate your help in me hitting that goal. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.